All right, guys, I believe we are live. Hey, guys, what's going on? James here. Welcome back to yet another episode of the MrBucsNation podcast. Joining me is Billy, William _ Walsh _ NFL here on YouTube. Go subscribe to him. It's at the top of the description. Billy, we're back for yet another episode, man. How you doing today?
I am doing great. Before we even start, James, am I muted? Because you know I like to be muted at the beginning of these live
No,
streams.
I specifically checked. You are not muted.
Thank goodness.
Everything's okay in the world. Actually, you know what? While we're talking about everything being okay in the world and positive things and whatnot, Billy, the Bucs have won two in a row. That's pretty
Oh,
spectacular, right?
yeah. Two in a row against division rivals in a division where tiebreakers at the end of the season may be the difference.
They're first place in the NFC South now. Like things are going pretty well. Things are going pretty well for the Bucs in my opinion, and we're going to be diving into some of their things revolving around the Green Bay Packers, their upcoming matchup, and just a lot of other different types of things going on, Billy, because there's a lot to talk about with it. But it is important to remember, like, you know, positives here is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are first in the NFC South. They have a couple of division wins in their books right now, and things are kind of going well lately.
Yeah, and like you said, getting the win last week is huge because Falcons were the only division rival to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so you absolutely couldn't go 0-2 against them on the season. You had to get that win to even it out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And, let's go ahead and, since we are on a positive track today, right? I think today is all about the power of positivity, as it were. And let's go ahead and start off as to one of the reasons as to why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been doing so well this year. This is one of the reasons we wanted to do a podcast today like this, is Rachaad White, man. What is going on with this guy? His past three games, Billy, have been, I would say, not even arguably, it's been the three best games of his season, the past three games. 102 yards against the Atlanta Falcons. He had 84 and a touchdown. And he also had a receiving touchdown against the Falcons, but he had 84 yards and a touchdown against the Carolina Panthers. And then he had 100 yards against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, that was a loss, and that was unfortunate, but this team plays better football whenever Rachaad White is getting a lot of carries. What have been your thoughts on White so far this year?
And important to note, his 100 yards against the Colts came on just 15 carries. So he's averaging over six yards per in that game. But yeah, obviously the offense is going to flow better when Rachaad White is playing well. I think Todd Bowles, we've known this, right? His MO is he wants an offense that can run the football. Right, wrong, or otherwise, that's the man's belief system. So he's going to want the offense to flow that way. Brought in Dave Canales to enforce that type of structure, and Dave Canales is going to want the offense to flow that way as well. The Bucs are lucky that Jason Light put in a flyer on Rachaad White and brought him onto the team because he has lived up to his draft status and then some, right, this season, especially as of late, like you said. But just you kind of saw glimpses of it last year when he would spell Lenny as the backup, right? Game-winning touchdown. Think about the game-winning touchdown against the Saints. You also think about the big breakout game against the Seattle Seahawks. You saw it there, right? It was there. It was beneath the surface. And now getting an opportunity to really hit his stride. And as the offensive line has gotten better this year, he's gotten a lot better. Instead of making a guy miss in the backfield and falling forward to get 2 or 3 yards, he's making a guy miss a couple yards downfield, and he's popping off some big runs. So Rachaad White is going to be, if he's the engine, then the Bucs are doing pretty well because it opens up everything else for everyone else. And we know that's how the Bucs, again, right, wrong, or otherwise, because you could argue the talent on the offense would dictate that they be a passing team. Right, wrong, or otherwise, they're going to be a running team, and they want to be a running team with Rachaad White as the engine. So, yeah, when he's rolling, you can expect big things out of the offense.
And I want to talk about another guy who it's only been one game. It's only been
Uh,
one game, but guy kind of popped off. Chase Edmonds, Billy. Remember how excited we were about Chase Edmonds whenever he was brought in? We were like, man, this guy built different. He did some cool stuff with the Arizona Cardinals. We love it. And then he came in and he got hurt. And it was like, well, that's unfortunate. And then Keyshawn Vaughn came in. He didn't do a lot. Sean Tucker came in. He really didn't do a lot. And it's just those two guys where you're like, oh gosh, the backup running back situation has not been good. Chase Edmonds came back, and everybody's like, yeah, baby, we're back. Chase Edmonds, let's go. And then it was quiet. You know, it was a little quiet. Things didn't automatically improve. But this past game, 8 carries, 40 yards, Billy. Are we finally going to see the version of Chase Edmonds that we've all been wanting to see?
Yeah, hopefully this is just him knocking at the door. He also had a couple receptions that were crucial in the game as well. And on one of his runs, I believe it was the longest of the day, he could have one tackle away from breaking it all the way. So he showed you a little bit of that burst and a little bit of what you would have hoped to get out of him, like you said back in the offseason when we were all getting giddy over the signing. One of the things that I find interesting about Chase Edmonds, which I didn't know until just literally today, actually. This morning, I watched the Buccaneers YouTube channel. They have the video of Rachaad White mic'd up last week. And the Buccaneers YouTube channel, their social media team, those do a great job. So yeah. I would definitely encourage, after you watch this, to head on over there and watch that because it's just really cool. But Chase Edmonds is actually in that a good amount because a lot of times on the sideline, they're kind of buddy-buddy and they're talking. And I really love Chase Edmonds' demeanor throughout the game on the sideline. He's very interactive. He comes off as such a veteran and a poised kind of leader, which I did not expect. Even though Chase Edmonds, he's been in the league for a while, you don't necessarily think of him as a veteran because it's not a name or a guy who's played a ton and been like this dominant star in his past. So you don't necessarily think of him coming off that way. But the way he was talking to Rachaad White, kind of just keeping him in the game and keeping him locked in and focused and giving him almost, I don't want to say like his hype man, but just kind of giving him positive encouragement and reinforcement throughout the game. You love to see that because young players often need that. And you can't put a price on that, really. That's a valuable asset that I didn't realize Chase Edmonds brought. And I was thrilled, really pleased to see it, honestly. And like I said, I would definitely head over to the Bucs YouTube channel and give that a watch after, of course, after you're done here.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, and that's the stuff that you don't really see, right? Where Chase Edmonds, chill guy. Gonna be out there, gonna be doing his own thing, gonna be I would even say, bit of a leader, right? I mean, like, I don't even know if leader's the right term, but it's just like having a good coworker. You know what I mean? It makes you want to be better. It makes you just in a better mood.
Yes.
It's a good teammate, I guess.
Definitely a good teammate and a guy he came off as so comfortable in his role. Sometimes sometimes you have backups who want to be starters, so they're not going to be instrumental in helping the starter succeed because they're like, dude, that should be my job. And correct. Chase Edmonds, like there's 3 or 4 moments throughout Rachaad White's mic'd up clip that feature Chase Edmonds, in their conversation. But one in particular, he's talking about how, Rachaad White needs to make this game about him and not about the Falcons' high-tier running back, right? Not about Bijan Robinson. And he specifically says that. And that's just the kind of, I don't know, it's a nice social awareness. It's a nice team-friendly attitude. And again, he's not even making it about himself. He's telling his teammate to make it about himself. And I just really think that that's a very, very selfless, like you said, I don't know if leader is the word, just great teammate, good coworker attitude.
Just a good dude, Shout out to Chase Edmonds, just a chill guy, just one of the homies. It's one of the boys, But listen, Rachaad White's been playing very well. We wanted to highlight that today. While you were talking, I was thinking about this, and I want to make this a video, okay? I want to make this a specific video, so I'm clipping this. Billy, there's been a lot of conversations. We're still staying on the positive track, okay?
Okay.
But there's been a lot of conversations in Bucs media circles, in Bucs fan circles, that winning isn't necessarily the best outcome for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people have been saying, well, if you look at it objectively, right, it would be best for the Bucs to lose, get a better draft pick, draft their eventual star quarterback or whoever that may be, and bring in a different head coach. And I want your thoughts and opinions on that discussion, because I think it isn't as objective as people say. It is certainly something that can be classified as subjective. And I want your thoughts and opinions on it before I give my thoughts and opinions on it, because this is something where a lot of people are actually torn on something like this. So what are your thoughts?
I am never going to be a fan of tanking. I don't like it. I don't like the concept. I just think it's bad for the league. I think it tarnishes the sport, like the integrity of the sport. I just think it defeats the purpose. I don't like it, especially tanking when you have an opportunity to go to the playoffs. It's not as if the Buccaneers are playing meaningless games, and they're just completely out of it. I mean, there are definitely some teams who around the league who have no chance at the playoffs, whether it be a wild card or the division, and the next couple games on their schedule mean nothing other than draft position or good vibes. So the Bucs are not in that position, but even if they were, I just don't like the concept because it's no guarantee that your draft order does not dictate the success of the player you draft. So I don't necessarily think it's a given. The Buccaneers had a number one overall pick not all that long ago, and it was a quarterback, and he's not with the team anymore. He's currently a backup. So I don't see it as a definitive.
I mean, also that didn't result in but one winning season in 5 years.
Right. So I don't see that as a definitive strategic approach. And I just don't, like I said, I think it tarnishes what sports are about. That's not what sports are for. And in the middle of a season, you shouldn't be looking at the next season. Focus on the here, focus on the now. And it makes me feel a little slimy. I don't like the idea of purposefully losing games or not trying their hardest to win them.
So my thoughts and opinions on this, and I've listened to a lot of different people give their thoughts and opinions on it, and I will say, first thing I want to say is I understand all viewpoints of this. I understand people who want to draft, who want to say, hey, get a different head coach, hey, get a different quarterback. And I'm not even saying that Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles are the answer, right? I mean, ultimately, we don't know. We have no idea. A lot of different things could happen. You never know, right? So to say that is just 100% one way or the other, that's an opinion at the end of the day. But I will say this. My philosophy for how I always want to see teams is I always want to see a team compete for playoffs, whatever it is, right? And it's funnily enough, just in any thing with that, I'm always going to sit there and have a team or want a team to be competitive, bring in guys to stay competitive rather than just tear it all down and have a tank or a rebuild or whatever you want to call it, right? So when I look around the league and you see teams like, not this year per se, but the Tennessee Titans or the Pittsburgh Steelers or those teams that are in the conversation every year, one team, which is the Bucs are playing this week, is the Green Bay Packers. That's something that I feel is better, right? Because some people may say, and hey, if you're in the middle, you might as well be at the bottom and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. For me personally, I do get where people are coming from, because why settle for mediocrity? Why settle for being a middle team? But you're always going to be at least in that conversation, right? You're always going to be in that dance of maybe you will make the playoffs. Oh, you might, and if it doesn't work out, then it is what it is. But if you do make it, then you have a chance, right?
Yeah, well, that's the concept of Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last.
Yeah, that's true. And look, I'm not going to discredit Ricky Bobby, but it is just a philosophy type of philosophy. It is a subjective and opinion type of thing. In my opinion, I would always take a team that might be 8-9, 9-8, maybe 7-10, and still have chances to make the playoffs every year, than 2 wins, 3 wins, and 6 wins, let's say.
To double down on kind of what you're saying, the team that to me was meteoric in their tank in recent memory, right, is the New York Jets. And for the New York Jets, that tank went so well that they drafted Zach Wilson and so I don't think the tank is just a guaranteed route to success. And that was you might snicker at Zach Wilson and Mac Jones and Trey Lance, but that was a stacked quarterback draft class. Everybody was, obviously Trevor Lawrence was the number one, but behind him, people weren't concerned that those guys weren't going to pan out. And none of them have. So to me, I I just don't. Again, I agree with you. I would rather see any team, a team I'm rooting for, a team I'm not rooting for, compete and play to win. But I just don't. It doesn't even guarantee you. It's not a scientific like formula where you're precisely guaranteed success just because you chose to tank.
And I would say this too, like I'm not even saying that Todd Bowles like is the answer, right? I mean, you know,
You're not?
no, surprisingly not, or that Baker Mayfield is the answer, whatever it is, right? Look, that those are different things, but I think just like for look, and I know it sounds cliche, right? But like for the culture, you know, like
Yeah.
I think as somebody who watches this football team year in and year out, I would much rather sit there and see 7 and 10 years, 8 and 9 years, or 9 and 8 years, and at least be in that conversation for playoffs every year, rather than 3 wins, 4 wins, 6 wins, and it just everything sucks. You know, because Billy, look, like we've experienced that our entire lives in the 2010s and the in the
Yeah.
later half of the John Gruden era, and it's not fun. It's not fun to be a team that is constantly at the bottom. Uh, and that's just kind of how it is. Point
Yeah.
blank simple as that. Can you get out of that? Yes, the Bucs did get out of that. So why would you want to go back to the cellar? And that isn't even to say that if you do lose all your games and you get 6 wins, you're gonna suck for the next 5 years or whatever it may be. But I would still rather have a team that at least is keeping you in the playoffs conversation in December football than a team where you're just not you're
Yeah.
not in that convo.
And I think you really hit on it when you talked about the culture because players don't want to lose and players definitely don't want to tank. So it becomes that much harder to bring back your own guys if they are a part of something like that, right? Because nobody wants to be. That's not fun. You think it's not fun to watch. I think it's not fun to watch. Imagine being a part of it on the field. That's brutal. So I think that that's definitely part of it too when you talk about having it doesn't even need to be a winning culture, but there is a big gap between a winning culture and a losing culture, right? So if you can keep yourself as a winning culture, well, that's great. That's the Patriots of, the Tom Brady years, the Chiefs. That's a winning culture. There's a lot of gray in the middle, though, between the white and black of a winning and losing culture. And you do not want to be on this end of the spectrum. You can tolerate being somewhere in the middle. And I think that tanking and signing up for a tank is indicative of a losing culture. You're accepting losing, you're going out of your way to embrace it, you're welcoming it. And it almost feels like from an observer, from someone who's rooting for the team, you're kind of selling your soul a little bit because you're it's kind of like you're pulling for your team to not be successful, and that's just
I would say that that's different. I would say that that's so. Evan Walsh, the Cannon Fire podcast, had said this. He had said that thinking that's best for a team to lose and wanting a team to lose are two very different things.
okay.
And I do agree with that.
Yes, that's fair.
I do agree with that.
That's fair.
Now, you can be objective and say that you think it's best for them to lose without saying I want them to lose, right?
Fair.
Two very
Yeah.
different things. But I will say, just me personally, if a team goes 7 and 10, a team goes 8 and 9, that at least shows me that this team has some good things to it that you can improve on. Bro, if a team's going like 6 wins, 5 wins, 4 wins, whatever it may be, that team is going to have so many questions and not a lot of answers.
Yes, and
And
you're gonna lose all your star players.
I would just rather have a team that has more answers at 7 wins,
Yeah.
8 wins. You're like, okay, I see some things that I like here versus 4 or 5 wins where you're like, oh
Well,
god, everything
if
sucks.
you have 7, 8, 9 wins every year, you feel like you're a few pieces away each year. And maybe you could get those pieces. For example, the Bucs, when they plugged in Tom Brady, of course, he's the greatest of all time. But the year before, you talked about it, losing record, but not 5 wins or 4 wins, a fringe losing record. You plug in a couple pieces and look what that team can do. So I think that that's kind of the other thing is you always feel like you're right on the cusp. And you have situations like I pulled this quote up before, right? Baker Mayfield was quoted today. This was earlier today, I believe that I read this. He said, I love it here. That's a big reason why I chose to come to this organization, the team, the guys, everybody around. I'm having fun playing football. I'm enjoying that. That's something that if you get a chance to pick or choose, this is a good place to be. Quotes like that don't come out of teams that are tanking. That's a team with a healthy culture, a good locker room. As much as we may knock Todd Bowles, that's a team that likes playing together and likes the group that they're a part of. That doesn't come out of a team that's actively attempting to lose games or is already thinking about next year. That comes out of a team that's trying to win and everybody loves everybody, whether it's for better or worse, and whether they're actually winning games, because technically they got a losing record. But that's a team that is supporting one another and a group that loves each other.
Yeah. And just to kind of, a team that really, kind of thought they were, did some good stuff last year. I think they won 7 games last year and were competitive. And they said, well, hey, they lost out. They got rid of the head coach. They brought in a new offensive head coach, traded up to pick one to get a QB. And now things are not going well. Panthers
No.
fans are sweating right now. So I don't know, man. Like, and that isn't even to say like I'm against drafting a quarterback or whatever it is. I'm just saying like I'd rather have a team be. I would rather see a team, and it's just philosophically, I'd rather have a team be competitive, 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, whatever you want to say, trying to make the playoffs, versus saying it's best for this team to lose. Maybe it is, but also maybe it's not. We don't know at the end of the day, right? We don't know. That's an opinion.
You gave a great example too when you talked about the Packers or the Steelers. Those are teams who have seamlessly transitioned from quarterback to quarterback and have never punted on a season. So I think that granted, it would be a high bar for the Buccaneers to be a franchise of that caliber, but they do exist. So you should strive for the greatest. I mean, the Packers drafted a quarterback in the middle of competing for titles and then developed him, and look what they've got. Like they're looking like they could be right back in it for years to come. So having that seamless transition is all part of that. The Steelers, again, Kenny Pickett, say what you want, but the Steelers are again in the mix this year, having never given up on a season or punted on a season to draft in the top 5 and grab a guy. So yeah, I couldn't. We're pretty much, I think, in agreement on it. It's just, it is an opinion, like you said, and on top of that, it's even if you, of course, I understand both sides, but even if I were thinking the other way, nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's a subjective thing, Billy. It's a subjective thing. I mean, some people may say Baker's not the answer. Some people may say Baker is the answer. Some people may say, they should lose, they should win, whatever it may be, right? It is all subjective at the end of the day. But hey, listen, how about this? Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a matchup versus the Green Bay Packers, Billy. Speaking of winning, the Bucs are the winners of 2 straight. The Green Bay Packers just lost to Tommy DeVito, Mr. Cold Cuts himself, Mr. Chicken Cutlets over here. And now this is interesting. This is such an interesting matchup to me, Billy, right? I was thinking about this the past couple of days. Doesn't these seem like 2 teams that are way more similar than people want to give credit for, right? Let's kind of break it down for me, okay? Is Jordan Love the guy for the Packers? Is he not the guy? Is Baker Mayfield the guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Is he not the guy? Both of them have some pieces on defense. Both of them have some pieces on offense here and there. Both of them are at 6-7 and have been struggling this year, but I think in some ways, Billy, have been teams that have exceeded expectations, right? I think people thought that the transition from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love would be awful. I think people thought that the transition from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield would be awful. By the way, they're both teams that literally just lost their GOATs. So this is, again, 2 pretty similar teams right now in terms of where they're at their season at a crossroads, where they're at in terms of scrapping, trying to fight for playoff chances and whatnot. And just have a lot of similar makeups as to what they are doing right now in terms of franchises. it is interesting. And I think both teams, again, a lot of people thought that I think a lot of people thought that both the Packers and the Bucs would probably not be 6-7 right now. Maybe the Packers, but not the Bucs. A lot of people thought the Bucs would be having 3 wins right now, half as
Yes.
many right now.
Yes.
And it's just an interesting matchup where it's almost like the Bucs are looking in the mirror. Would you agree with that or would you disagree?
You make some good points. They also have a lot. It's a young team, right? Both teams are young teams, kind of growing together, sort of. I like kind of where you're coming from. I didn't like it at first, but you persuaded me a
You're
little
not
bit, James.
100% on board with it though.
There are some similarities for sure. I would agree. I think the
Todd
gaping.
Bowles is the next Matt Eber. I don't know what to tell you.
That's actually you took the right out of my mouth, James. The gaping chasm I think between the two is I feel like Packer fans may be a little bit more confident in their head coach than Bucs fans are in theirs. But there are definitely similarities with the roster and the current state of where the team is going versus where they came from. So you make good points. I'll give it to you. Well done.
We'll take that. We'll take that. But no, it is an interesting matchup, Billy. And the Packers, apparently a lot of people have been dissing, just straight up dissing this Packers defense, which has been very interesting. They're saying they have a terrible, which we talked about Rachaad White earlier in this live stream. The Packers have a pretty bad run defense, Billy. Pretty bad. Some people are saying it's it's one of the worst in the league's passing offense, or the passing defense, I guess you should say. You have Jair Alexander there. He's just an absolute beast of a human being. You have some other good pieces in there as well. But, again, this is a Packers team that is the most vulnerable it's been in a long time, Billy. What are kind of your thoughts on this game and how the Bucs match up against the Packers?
Yeah, you teed it up perfectly. The Packers have, I believe, second worst rush defense in the league this year in terms of yardage given up. And the Buccaneers, we talked about it earlier. They want nothing more than to hand the ball to Rachaad White 25 times. So I would expect a healthy dose of Rachaad White and then a nice, tablespoon of Chase Edmonds on top. I think that the Bucs know the Packers not stopping the run too well and coming off of the hot streak of games that they have been on running the football, they're going to try to run it. I also think something interesting you notice with the Bucs is when they're running the football, I think we praise Baker a lot here, but we know that Baker is not like this elite guy. When the run game's clicking, Baker Mayfield is going to be more fluid and going to be more in sync. And I realized last week he was far from brilliant, but a flawless game in terms of turnovers. He plays a safe, nice game, right? Gives you 3 touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground, and no mistakes, including a game winner. So I feel like when the Bucs are playing that way, that's when they're going to be their most efficient and their most rock solid on offense, and they know that. So they're going to try to lean into their strength over the last few weeks and the Packers' biggest weakness. And for the Green Bay Packers, they got to know that too. So you would expect that that's going to be something that they're keyed in on. It'd be nice to see the Bucs take advantage of that and hit some play action passes. I am craving some play action, move the pocket, get Baker Mayfield looking at half the field, give him a touchdown to a check down read, something simple where he's got an option to take it deep. If it's not there, dump it off short, and let's keep the drive moving. I love plays like that off of a solid run game, which the Bucs have kind of flexed these last couple games. So now take advantage of that run game and use it to help the passing game a little more than they're currently doing.
Yeah, I think that this is a team in the Packers where look, at the end of the day, regardless of the record, I still think the Packers are a decent team, right? I still think that. And I think that this is a team where you may have to get creative. You may have to do some things differently. You may have to really open up the bag, so to speak, and pull out some things you have not yet done so, because the Packers are a team that, hey, if you give them some chances, if you make too many mistakes, they're going to capitalize and they're going to beat you, right? Bucs played a pretty sound game last week in terms of not making mistakes. That's going to be huge, and we're going to need to see more creativity. We're going to need to see more Rachaad White, which we're always down to see. And it's going to be an interesting matchup, man. It really is.
I feel like the Packers last week, right? They're a young team, and young teams are prone to, some silliness and some mistakes. Losing to, Tommy Cutlets, is that what you called him?
Yeah.
Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito. losing to him, I feel like that's a kind of a trap game for them. And that's no disrespect to the Giants, but the Packers were riding high. And I feel like a young team could sniff themselves, start to feel like, yeah, all we got to do is show up and we're going to pull this out against the Giants. Come on. Right. And that's when you get those trap games. So I don't expect the Bucs to get anything less than the Packers' best this week because they just had that trap game. So that's when a young team gets ultra focused after that trap game, especially if they have a solid, reliable, tenured coach like LaFleur. So I would expect the Bucs to get the Packers' best, and it should be because the teams are mirror images of each other, James. It should be, a pretty good game, all things being equal.
Yeah, I agree. So ultimately, we'll see how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do against Green Bay Packers. Should be a fun one, but also this is a not an easy matchup for the Bucs. But hey,
You mentioned Jair. Jair had a good game against the Bucs in the NFC Championship game. He could put 2 picks.
it's true. And the Bucs don't have Scotty Miller anymore. So deep pass to Trey Palmer. Let's see it. Devin Tompkins, get him out there. We'll see, but no, this should be a difficult, but still at the end of the day, fun matchup for the Bucs.
Yeah,
So
I would expect both teams are going to feature the run game, I think.
I agree. There's a couple more things I want to talk about, Billy.
All right.
First thing I want to talk about is the injury report for that Green Bay Packers game because some
Yeah.
guys are a little banged up. Right? You have a couple of different guys who have not been participating in practice. You have a couple of different guys who have been participating, but it's been a little bit sketchy in terms of their limited availability and whatnot. Let's kind of go over it. Carlton Davis didn't participate in practice because of a groin injury. Will Golston did not practice due to a knee/ankle injury. Chris Godwin did not participate due to a knee injury. Ryan Neal with a back. Zach Triner with an elbow. And Vita Vea with a toe injury. And out of all those guys who did not participate in Thursday's practice, you got to be worried about Zach Triner. I mean, long snapper, a guy who just goes in, week out, he performs, right? That's got to be the first guy you're worried about. I guess there's some other guys in there that we could talk about. I mean, Carlton Davis not being, participating. That's not good. But Zach Triner. No, but seriously, what are your thoughts and opinions about the guys who are not participating in practice? A lot of starters there.
Well, we joke and we laugh, but one bad long snap could cost you the game. So,
It's true.
Zach Triner has been reliable for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Biggest one to me, this is quite literally the biggest one, Vita Vea. He didn't play last week, and I was shocked because usually he is prone to playing through, injuries. So that tells you a little something about the actual injury that he's kind of dealing with. Hopefully he could muddle through because I do think the Packers want to play a balanced game. I don't think they want Jordan Love to just sling it all over the place. Don't know how the Bucs, I know the Bucs held up well-ish against the run game last week with Gaines in there, but I just think Vita in there it is a colossal difference. Not even just against the run, against the pass as well. Having Vita in there just to occupy space and push the pocket forward, it is a game changer. He is an absolute game changer for the Bucs' entire defense. So I think that above all else, having him be active and playing changes everything.
It seemed like I think I saw something reported. I think it was Peter Report who had mentioned this, that a lot of these guys are going to be game time decisions. Carlton Davis, Will Golston, Chris Godwin, Ryan Neal. Like, these guys have not practiced Wednesday or Thursday, by the way. Just to make a note of that. Like, Carlton Davis, no Wednesday, no Thursday. Will Golston, same. Chris Godwin, same. Ryan Neal, same. Zach Triner, same. My goodness. Vita Vea, same. But you do have some positive news here in the form of Jamel Dean getting upgraded from limited on Wednesday to full go on Thursday, and Devin White getting upgraded from not participating on Wednesday to full go on Thursday. Now, there's a couple of things that are interesting here, Billy. Firstly, in the case of Jamel Dean, you have Zion McCollum, who's been going out there and kind of crushing it at cornerback. He's been playing very well, and we talked about him last time as doing pretty darn good for the Bucs. And then Devin White, KJ Britt kind of went out there and had that dog in him in that Atlanta Falcons game, put some good tape out there. What are your thoughts on these two guys coming back?
Yeah, I don't want to take your – it's great that they're coming back, But don't you kind of want to see Zion and KJ Britt in there? Zion McCollum led the team in tackles last week. KJ Britt should have had an interception. Ball bounced off quite literally his face. I really feel like the Buccaneers, young players who have had to fill in, have filled in quite admirably. And it's exciting to see, especially in the case of KJ Britt and Devin White, because in my opinion, just my opinion, there's about like a 0% to 5% chance Devin White plays for the Buccaneers beyond this season. So getting him on the field to finish out the season, is it a priority? Especially if KJ Britt, you would like to see him get game opportunities. So come this offseason, it makes a decision on where to go towards the future easier. Well, we've seen what we have in-house versus we have to speculate what we have in-house. In the case of Dean and McCollum, Zion McCollum has shown great growth this season. He has been, even just in the, as the season has progressed from earlier in his career to now, and then quite literally in this individual season, he has shown great maturity, great growth. Last week, another guy who could have had a pick on the deep ball covering, the one and only Scotty Tuhati. I really feel like Zion McCollum has grown tremendously, and I would like to see him play more or get the opportunity to take some reps. Just like I feel the same way about both of them, honestly. Even though I have nothing against Jamel Dean in any capacity.
Well, Devin White wasn't included in that last part, but no, it is interesting. Like what you just said. I mean, I couldn't put it better myself. Like, John McCollum's been playing good. KJ Britt's been playing good. We saw earlier this year Matt Filer get benched essentially by injury after, and that's unfortunate, right? Like, you obviously don't want to see those types of situations where guys get hurt, but if guys get hurt and other guys come in and step in and play really well, I don't know. I mean, it just kind of raises the question, huh?
And that benching has done nothing but be fruitful for the Buccaneers, right? Their run game has picked up. Stinney has been very solid. Even if you watch the mic'd up video on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers YouTube channel from Rachaad White last week, he praises Aaron Stinney. Aaron Stinney got the block that sprung him on the screen pass for his touchdown. So, yeah, I think the difference is Devin White and Jamel Dean are true Buccaneers. They're a little bit more entrenched, obviously, than Matt Filer, and Todd Bowles is usually pretty stubborn in a situation like that. But, yeah, similarities are definitely there, and you see the results when Filer, unfortunately, of course, number for injuries. When Filer went down, Stinney has stepped in and been beyond a suitable replacement.
Yeah, so I do wonder, like, kind of, and look, ultimately, what do I think is going to happen? I think Jamel Dean and Devin White are just going to resume their spots as starters. Is that the best thing? I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe the time for them to take and get healthy is gonna return and see them have improved play. But you are gonna have that in the back of your mind, at least I am, of what's Son McCollum doing? What's he up to? Like, ooh, KJ Britt. Wonder if he would have made a play if something does go wrong. I'm not even saying something will go wrong, but I'm just saying it does make you think, Billy.
Yeah, because the biggest thing with Devin White for the last 2 seasons now has been effort. So KJ Britt is giving you 100 because he's not resting on his laurels. He has proven nothing in this league. So every time he steps on the field, he's not going to take it for granted. So when you put Devin White back out there, is he going to play with that same ferocity? I don't know. I'd love to see it. Devin White has untapped potential well beyond KJ Britt, but will he give it to you in terms of is his want to be there going to be seeping out of him? I don't know. And a couple streams ago, you talked about the passer rating against Zion McCollum, Carlton Davis, and Jamel Dean, and out of the three, Zion McCollum had the best passer rating. So
with more targets against him.
The lowest passer rating, to be clear. He had the best passer rating, not for quarterbacks, but for a defender. So, yeah, it's hard to be disappointed to see starters coming back, but there is just that little bit of that element of, man, your backups were playing pretty good.
Yeah, and Todd Bowles had said earlier in the year that, hey, some guys might get replaced if they don't play well. I mean, we are seeing some guys play well. Will that be rewarded? Probably not. But it does make you think, and maybe it'll make the Bucs think too. So we will just have to wait and see, Billy, and it could get interesting. Last thing,
Last thing.
I want to talk about before we end off the stream. We've been going for about 40 minutes, Billy. We've had a fun time. Thank you to everybody in the chat, by the way. We got Willie in here. We got Brutal Bucks in here. We got Blessed. We got Clack in here. We got Cohen in here. We got Masenko. We got a lot of people. We got Jacko, Doug. A lot of people, Billy. A lot of people in here today watching us, and we're happy for it.
Always appreciative.
Yes, always, always, always appreciative. But the last thing I want to talk about is a bit of fun speculation. I don't even know if you would classify this as fun speculation, but I remember somebody had asked me in a comment to make a video about this, and then I saw a report that said that the New England Patriots were already planning to move on from Bill Belichick after the loss in Germany to the Giants, I believe was what the game was. And somebody had left a comment saying, hey, you should talk about the possibility of Bill Belichick coming to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And at first I was like, I'll screenshot it. I'll put it in the back of my mind. But now I want to talk about it, Billy. It's time to talk about it. Bill Belichick to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Billy. If the Bucs, this is a big if, decide to move on from Todd Bowles, would they take a swing at Bill Belichick? What are your initial thoughts and opinions?
I need clarity and context. Is the question Todd Bowles versus Bill Belichick or
no?
Or Coach X versus Bill Belichick?
It is if Todd Bowles is fired, would the Tampa Bay Buccaneers be interested in bringing in Bill Belichick to coach this football team?
So it's not what I think is best. It's just what do I think the Bucs would make the move?
You could also say what you think is best.
I think it's a bad idea.
Okay.
But Jason Light, there's ties.
Because there's two different opinions you can give. What you want to happen and what you ultimately think the organization would want.
Okay. I think at the core, the Buccaneers would love for nothing more than for Todd Bowles to make the playoffs so they don't have to fire him. That's what I think they want to have happen. For myself personally, I think the Buccaneers should, with all due respect, I think Bill Belichick is the greatest football coach I have ever seen coach football. I still think he's a great coach. With all due respect, please, no. Because he, as a GM, sabotages himself as a coach. And unless he would come to Tampa and be willing to not wear that GM cap, I think it's a bad idea. Go ahead.
I have a couple of thoughts. Okay. The first thing I think is, whenever I think of this, is like, we don't even know if Todd Bowles is getting fired yet, right? Yeah. We don't know. The second thing, and let me start off by my opinion. My opinion, bad idea. I think that Bill Belichick's stock this might be a hot take. I think his stock has plummeted since Brady left. Plummeted. Yes. Whereas everybody thought he was undisputed, undeniably the GOAT. Every single year that you see Belichick without Brady, it raises more questions, in my opinion. Okay? In my opinion. And it's just something to think about. It's just something to consider, Billy. And you kind of winced at that. But look, in my opinion, that's just what I feel like. I feel like Belichick's stock has been going down more and more and more and more and more, that we've not seen him with the greatest player of all time on his roster, right?
Yeah, but he made Tom Brady at the same time. So I think Bill Belichick, yes, his stock is down, but I hate saying I don't want to disrespect a legend. I just feel like it happens. It happens to everyone, but I feel like the game has.
Does it happen to everyone?
Games passed him by. Like, I think Bill Belichick has not transitioned kindly towards new age NFL. Now, why I think he's still great in game, on the field, on the sideline, in terms of using strategy, timeouts, challenges as a defensive, coordinator, I think Bill Belichick is excellent. I think he's best in the league. In terms of just that moment, I think he's flawless. It's all the other stuff that comes with Bill Belichick that I'm not confident in. And I just think building the team the way he's going to want to build the team, that's not realistic for today's NFL, and that's why I think the game has kind of it's passed him by a little. I personally.
Another thing for me, I don't know if I trust Bill Belichick to grow and develop a roster anymore.
Right.
Minus a few. No. What I mean by that is even if he wasn't making the decisions
Oh,
in terms of
sure.
creating the roster, I don't trust him to develop players
Yes.
besides a few defensive guys.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that may be a hot take, it may not be, but do I trust Bill Belichick to cultivate and grow an environment for a rookie quarterback if the Buccaneers decide to go that route? No. Do I trust him to grow and develop any type of environment of an offense that doesn't have Tom Brady in it? No. I don't trust that right now.
Yeah.
Defensively, I know that he could probably really increase guys as pass rushers. In secondary members, we've seen him develop defensive guys, but it's a multiple. I just wouldn't trust him to bring in guys to grow and develop the other sides of the football. That's where I think you'd be running into some issues. Whenever I think about the organizational thoughts behind it and whether or not they would want to do that, would the Glaziers be interested? Yeah. I mean, the Glaziers always want to go for big names. Honestly, heck, Billy, we may be making a video in a week or two about Jim Harbaugh. I don't know. But the one thing that would get me and it makes me say that I don't even think the organization would be interested. Yes, Jason Light has loads of connections to Bill Belichick. The first thing is this. Would Jason Light be okay with just saying, go ahead, take the reins to build a roster if Bill wants that? Maybe Bill doesn't want that. And then you get into an entirely different conversation. But we've never seen him not want that. So based on previous evidence, you got to assume Bill Belichick would want control of the roster. I don't see Jason Light giving that up. I think Jason Light is a GM that wants to have a coach that trusts him to build the roster. And I think that that is notable and that's interesting there, right? Secondly, is, and this is more so of the case of Bill Belichick, might not even be interested in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You just got done hearing Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick, Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick, and then Bill Belichick leaves the Patriots and goes to the team where the guy that
Yeah.
that he potentially, allegedly, may have gotten rid of or wanted to get rid of went and won a Super Bowl. You're just gonna follow his coattails like that? I don't know, man.
Yeah. I'll give you my counter to that would be my most incorrect take maybe of all time, at least especially since I've been doing YouTube or covering sports, was I thought there was no way. I would have bet anything you. I'm not a betting man, James, but I would have bet anything you wanted to bet. There was a 0% chance Aaron Rodgers was going to the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers wound up on the Jets. And years people might forget because we're not of maybe that generation, but Aaron Rodgers versus Brett Favre was a major thing in Green Bay for the longest time. And Aaron Rodgers didn't care at all to do exactly what Brett Favre did to the Packers. He went and did the same exact thing and wound up in the same exact place. So
I get where you're going with this, but I think that's different because Favre, he last 1 year and fizzled out in the Jets before he went to Minnesota and really started to get going back again.
Yeah, but
I think the difference here's the difference.
Aaron Rodgers quite literally is doing the same thing.
Correct. But the difference is that Brady went to Tampa and was a success.
Okay, that's fair.
Favre went to New York and flopped.
Well, he got hurt. If you remember, they were very good halfway through the season.
My point exactly, though. If Favre went there and won a Super Bowl,
I guess that's a good point.
People would be like, well, kind of Favre did it first, buddy. And that's what people would say. Yeah. Oh, Bill Belichick's going to the Bucs. Well, Brady did it first.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just don't.
And
to me, I think the Bucs, from an ownership standpoint, the only thing that they would look at it and maybe argue like for Belichick would be, does Bill Belichick sell tickets? And to me, I don't think so. I think if he wins, it sells tickets, but I think that's the case for any coach. Any coach, if you bring him in and Bucs start winning, tickets going to start.
I would disagree with that. I think he would sell tickets per se. I do. Okay. But the thing that gets me The thing that gets I would go to a game and see Bill Belichick in a freaking Bucs gear. But here's the thing that gets me. One, I don't trust Bill Belichick to build a roster. And if that is what he wants, I don't think that I certainly would not want to see that. And I don't think the Jason Light would want to see that either. Okay? Two, even if Bill Belichick said, I don't need control of the roster, would the Bucs be more interested? Absolutely. I think that raises up their interest dramatically. But I don't trust Bill Belichick to grow and cultivate a roster in the modern day NFL anymore, okay? And three, Bill Belichick, following just a year, 2 years after Tom Brady goes and wins the Super Bowl and has this magical run with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I don't know if that, I wouldn't say that would tarnish his legacy, so to speak, because I think that is too dramatic. But it would raise some questions and have people kind of roll their eyes.
He would have to come to Tampa and win a
Super Bowl.
That's
right?
it.
And
there is no alternative option there.
And I just don't think it. Maybe some people will disagree. I don't think we're going to see Bill Belichick in that type of conversation for the rest of his coaching career.
No,
unless he goes somewhere, if he goes somewhere with already a star quarterback, like, if he goes to like the Chargers or something with Justin Herbert and Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and all those dogs, like maybe, but
Belichick's reputation is negative from a player standpoint. Remember when Stafford got traded from the Lions and he said, trade me anywhere besides the Patriots? I don't want to play for Bill Belichick. Like, he's not going to be a one-off thinking that. So Bill's reputation precedes him, and players don't necessarily, it takes a specific type of player to be willing to show up to work and be like dictated to, like you're in the military and your coach is your drill sergeant. That's not what everyone wants out of their football life. And, now Bill's kind of lost the cachet of winning to excuse that. Back in the day, well, not even that long ago, but back in the Brady times, it was like, yeah, we're going to be militant, but we win every year. So, you kind of got to pick and choose. It's like, yeah, work might be cold, hard, boring, and long and arduous, but I'm getting a Super Bowl every 3 years. And those other 2 years, I'm 1-2 games away from the Super Bowl. So that's gone, at least in the immediate, thought process of a lot of people. Not saying he could never get back, but in the immediate thought process, you don't think automatically if you add Bill Belichick, you're a Super Bowl contender. And because of that, do people want to put up with the rest of it? I wouldn't think so.
Chad put it best, by the way, and we'll end it with this. He sabotaged Mac Jones with a special teams guy and a defensive guy calling offensive plays. I mean, that just speaks for itself.
I got to defend. Let me throw one more defense of Bill Belichick.
Okay. All right.
Bill Belichick Tom Brady is like his Frankenstein to me personally. He built Tom Brady. You could say Tom Brady was always Tom Brady, but he was not drafted high. He was not even a full-time starter at Michigan and wasn't even a starter when he first got into the league. So yes, Tom Brady gets credit for his own development, but Bill Belichick deserves a lot of credit there too, right? He built Tom Brady. That's the GOAT quarterback. He also built and developed the GOAT tight end. Rob Gronkowski was not a first-round pick. He was talented, of course, super athletic, but he built Rob Gronkowski and helped develop him, along with Tom, who will get credit there too, into the GOAT tight end. And when he was a defensive coordinator, right, he had arguably the GOAT defensive player as well because he coached Lawrence Taylor. So yes, Bill Belichick is certainly capable of developing players. I don't want to make it sound like the man can't coach. He obviously can coach. I just think personally, even with all that on his resume, I just feel like it's not a good match. I just don't think it's a good fit. It's puzzle pieces that don't align.
I agree. So, no, I agree. And look, the reason we talk about it is because sometimes there are situations in life where you got to put cold water on a situation essentially and say, no, none of that. Stop that right now. And that's going to be some discussion. I wanted to talk about it today just to bring it up and just say, like, guys, no, no. No, no. And definitely just wanted to bring that up and talk about that. So there you have it. We both think that Bill Belichick shouldn't be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach. It wouldn't be in their best interest. May just want to go elsewhere or retire. I don't know. maybe do that also.
No, he's got to get the all-time wins record before he retires. He's not going to retire.
Okay, yeah, you're probably right. Billy, we've had a fun stream today. It's been a good one. We've been going for about an hour. It's pretty fun, right?
Yes. Are you going to ask me if I have any closing thoughts? Because this time I have something prepared.
Do you have any final thoughts before we head off?
Well, it's funny that you ask, James. I want to just say small shout out to an individual player on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I want to see more Yaya Diaby. Give me Yaya.
You want to see more Yaya?
I do. I need more Yaya on Sundays. Because he plays so hard and he has a lot of like intensity on the field, a lot of hustle, a lot of effort. I'm a sucker for a guy who gives you effort. So to me, yes, Yaya has gotten, he's increased his playing time as it is. And to me, I see good results. I want to see more Yaya on game days.
He should certainly be playing more than the guy who got stiff-armed by Desmond Ridder.
Who was that again?
That's Joe Tryon Shoyinka.
Yes, and I don't think Yaya would have allowed that to happen. I'm just going to say.
I think Yaya...
that was an ugly play.
He would have... I was going to say he would have broken Desmond Ritter's arm, but I don't want that. So...
That was an ugly play.
He would have just powered through it.
That stiff arm?
Gosh. It was brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah. Well, folks, listen, we've had a lot of fun here today. We've had a good time. Go subscribe to Billy's YouTube channel. We're trying to get him to 1,000 subscribers. We need it. He needs it. He has something very special planned for 1,000 subscribers. You heard it here first. He's going to be doing something fantastic. We're not going to tell you what it is because it's a big surprise, but just stay tuned. Get him to 1,000 and then you'll find out. But guys, hey, thank you so much for watching this live stream. Hope you all enjoyed. Thank you for the chat. Thank you for everything, guys. And as always, we'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now. See you soon, and go Bucs.